Good afternoon. I am Dr. Jermaine Williams, president of Montgomery College, and we have a definite treat here for everyone today. I'm happy to welcome you to the next episode in our discussion series we call Next Gen Talent, Let's Get to Work. I'm so pleased to have with us Mr. Eric Seleznow as our guest today. With more than 30 years of experience, he is a national workforce development expert and advisor to workforce boards, community colleges, nonprofits, and employers. Mr. Seleznow is the founder and former executive director of the Center for Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning at Jobs for the Future. He also served as the former Deputy Assistant Secretary in the U.S. Department of Labor with Secretary Tom Perez during the Obama administration. And earlier in his career, he worked right here in Maryland. Eric worked for the Maryland Governor's Workforce Investment Board and Montgomery County Department of Economic Development. With this breadth of impressive experience, he is the right person to discuss how to drive transformation. He can talk with us about strategies, policies, and systems that can help create bridges that close and ideally eliminate skill gaps and get skilled talent in those jobs. Thank you so much for joining me today, Eric.
Pleasure to be here, Dr. Williams. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm eager to have this conversation. I know our listeners, our viewers are eager to hear this conversation, given your expertise about new ways to tackle workforce gaps. So here at Montgomery College, and just to set the stage a little bit, we see ourselves as an anchor in the system to produce homegrown talent to fuel our local economy. We serve 40,000 students, and those students represent our local community, with more than 79% of our students identifying as a person of color. We're also a Hispanic serving institution and an Asian American, Native American, and Pacific Islander serving institution as designated by the Department of Education. By offering post-secondary education and training from degrees to certifications, students, we believe, will become engineers, HVAC professionals, lab bench workers, nurses, automotive techs, and so much more. And we work, as you know, Eric, I don't have to tell you, in collaboration with many partners in order to understand the talent needs in our community and to create talented alumni to fill such jobs. Our partners include Montgomery County Public Schools, USM and USG, community-based organizations, the county's workforce development, economic development entities, and local chambers of commerce, and an array of employers. But as we well know, there remains critical workforce needs, right? They continue to go unmet. So let's hop in, right? Our first question here today. Montgomery County is home to numerous flourishing industries that need skilled talent, like healthcare, biotechnology, and IT. And these employers have an abundance of jobs, yet many go unfilled. For example, we know there's a persistent skills gap in cybersecurity. 30,000 jobs remain open in Maryland right now. So let's start, please, with a clear understanding of what the issues are today. When we say skills gap, what are we talking about? And given your experience, what do employers really need today?
Yeah. Well, that's about 27 questions in one, Dr. Williams. So, I'll take it apart. I promise not to go on for 20 minutes, but, we've been saying the same thing for 30 years in this business, or similar things. It's become much more acute lately, right? So, some people would argue, oh, there's not a skills gap, there's an education and training gap, right? And, that's what needs to be strengthened. Which gets you to skills, which gets you to address the skills gap. But I think there's education and training. We already have a robust system. Montgomery County definitely does, has a robust system. But, are there more things we can do with employer engagement and employer input? And, I've been in this space for many, many years, Dr. Williams, as you have. And it's always a challenge to get more employers in the game, right? And employers to say, look, here's very specifically what I need. Here's a certification. Here's the credential. Here's the diploma that I need. And then, of course, the problem comes in is you got to give these people experience as well, right? Which is what led me to get heavily involved in apprenticeship when I was a Fed. So, because that work-based learning complements the education and training so well. And I know you guys do some of that work. But, yes, there's a skills gap. And you look at all the labor market data, I mean, it's crazy. I see help wanted signs everywhere I go, right? HVAC companies, auto dealerships, you name it, we see it everywhere. So, I've always been a big fan of partnering with all of the other workforce related partners and sort of coming together about how we work with employers by industry sector. And I know Montgomery County's done some work in that. Really, the labor market data is clear. Healthcare, everything is growing, right? And with some of the federal policies and funding that the president has done, hopefully there'll be some more money going out into the system for that sort of work. But, so you look at the biotech industry in Montgomery County, which I know you have, but I always want to dig deeper in that and get really specific with employers, right? Not just say, oh, you have jobs, we want to work with Montgomery College. Okay, so engage and partner with us employers so we can ask the right questions, find out exactly what you need. And then it's our job, as whether you're at a workforce board, a nonprofit, or what anything, is to craft solutions to address that skills or education and training gap. So, to me, when you're looking at a regional workforce challenge, look, we know the Greater Washington Board of Trade is interested in that. We know the chambers are interested in that, and particularly the colleges and the workforce organizations out there. But it really takes some dynamism to bring those folks together in a region and target some of those industries. And sometimes I think you've got to break out the industry. So you got manufacturing, you've got construction, you've got biotech, you've got cyber, and get work groups to sort of address that with employers. I mean, there's a million different ways to approach this work, but I think you've named this next gen, right? And I do think we need to take the next step in education and training to really put people on the pathways to these jobs.
Well, thank you so much for helping us dive in, and we're going to probe the partnership piece. And I really want to hit on something you mentioned, is a skills gap and also the education and training that's needed, right? And we want to know that our students, the residents that we serve, that they'll experience post-completion success, right? It's not enough, as you shared, to just give students access to education and training. We want to know that our graduates can leave MC and get good jobs, right? Get on a career trajectory that results in family-sustaining wages, which strengthens the local economy, right? For many residents, though, the thought of incurring debt for colleges is daunting, right? And it seems like sometimes a bachelor's degree, it seems sometimes is the only path to success. And as you talked about the dynamism, I'd really like to hear from you, like, are there other pathways, even here in Montgomery County, which is, home to a knowledge-based economy? The question, how do we make workforce systems more equitable, more better connected, and easier to navigate? That's another 27 questions for you, I know. But I'm sure you'll be able to share some wonderful insight.
Well, that's not an easy answer, but there is innovation happening across the country at different colleges. What I see happening at most of them is unique partnerships, and you mentioned collaboration earlier, with the employer groups, with the workforce system, with some of these other partners. The challenge over the last 30 or 40 years, as you well know, is that we haven't done a good enough job, and man, this applies to every state, everywhere, at going after and reaching out to diverse communities, right? We just put information out there, we do our work, it's great, but we haven't, with purpose, focused on outreach and engagement of different communities, right? And so we know that Montgomery County is very diverse. I'm sure everybody in Montgomery County does outreach, but this whole thing with diversity and equity is with purpose, right? You've got to reach out with purpose. Reaching out in general, a lot of people say, oh, we reach out to the minority communities. We reach out to women. We reach out to people with disabilities, which is an often forgotten group, or we work with veterans. So they may do that, but is there another step towards that you can do? Is there some engagement that you can do with those communities? You got to do the outreach on it, right? And with purpose, with intention, and with focus. So whether you're trying to get the Latino community, which I know is pretty significant in Montgomery County, or any of the communities of color, any of the communities of people with disabilities, or that, there has to be a next step, I think, involved in that. We just haven't done well enough to target that. But I think, it goes far beyond the college's responsibility, though, right? It's really the community's responsibility. What is county government doing? What is MCPS doing? What are some of the other folks doing around this to create some sort of system? And the other challenge that you have in the county, I don't know what the numbers are in the county, you probably do, but across the country, there's more than 30 million people without high school diplomas, right? Or have challenges reading and writing. And that, despite the affluence of Montgomery County, having lived there most of my life, I can tell you that there's a lot of challenges in, one of these ex-urban communities that Montgomery County has become, almost city-like in certain parts of it. So, it's how do we bring people along the continuum of services and focus on their employment goals? So can guided career pathways starting in high school that articulate or matriculate to Montgomery College and then out in the employment sector work, right? Put people on pathways, get them work-based learning experience, because you really need you can spend 2 years in a classroom but still never fumbled around in a lab to understand how things happen in a lab, right? So any internships, co-ops, work-based learning, and then the big one of them all is apprenticeships, right? Because I think that puts people out there and gives them skills that they can't really get in the classroom. And I think diverse populations benefit from that. They get connected to a network of people. They get connected to good role models. They get connected to understand what the world of work is. So, and I do think systematizing that from the public schools through the college. I know you do some of that. Or focusing on that in the continuing ed and workforce development work, right? The people that you bring in to prepare them very specifically, short-term training to get them out in the workforce. So I could go on this for a very long time, but I think my bottom line would really be, purpose and targeting, and really putting your foot forward as a counselor, as an institutional leader, as an instructor, to really reach out to those communities.
Well, thank you so much for that, and what you shared just resonates immensely. And I think about some of the opportunities that we're pursuing at Montgomery College in terms of ensuring that all of our educational opportunities have experiential learning embedded within them, because we know that so many of our students aren't afforded the opportunity to be able to go out and have an internship, especially one that's unpaid or underpaid, right?
Yeah. I don't believe in unpaid internships, by the way. Sorry.
Agreed. And put me down for that as well. And so when we think about those opportunities, and I appreciate you talk about the partnership and the concerted nature and how we're reaching out. And it's clear to me, it's clear to us that we have to put the student needs, they have to be paramount, right? And really right there with the talent demands as well, as we seek new solutions to unlock and cultivate potential and also talent. So, and we have at Montgomery College, and you've mentioned this, we bring employers and faculty in a room to build curricula that's based on current employer needs, and with that training in hand, our graduates are ready to go. They're ready to go into the lab, and I think it's how do we scale that up? Transformation at scale is extremely important, and that collaboration is incredibly critical. I'm wondering your thoughts. You mentioned a lot there. How do you think we get more deeply connected to employers, right? Because it's not just one or two or three. It's not just a couple of businesses. But when we think about industry, right, and the businesses that are within industry, like what's your insight on that? How do we get more deeply connected?
Well, there's a lot of subsectors within certain industry groups that are prime opportunities, right? So, I learned a valuable lesson in Montgomery County many years ago when I was with the local Montgomery County Workforce Board. We did an event with all the vice presidents of the fine hospitals in Montgomery County. And we had all this labor market information about what their shortages should be, or what their shortages are and what we should train on. Of course, everything came up nursing shortage. What didn't come up in the data was pharmacy technicians, surgical technicians, all of the allied health professions didn't come up that much in the labor market data. So I was in this conversation with all of these HR vice presidents of the hospitals, and they basically said, look, we don't need all that stuff. We need 60 unit clerks who are Microsoft certified and can do X, Y, and Z, right? And none of that would show up in the labor market data. And so you learn a lot when you meet with industry and drill down to their needs, or you break manufacturing out to pharmaceutical manufacturing on the floor, or data analysis and IT, or there's a lot of subsectors where you can do work. But the key to that is I'm going to be provocative for a second, if I may. I am tired of working with employers who volunteer to work with workforce boards and colleges, but don't want to bring their jobs to the table with them, right? They have great ideas, they want to help, but I believe these employers should have an enlightened self-interest in participating. And so they should join you to give, all of the specific details you need, so it creates a flow right to those employers, and they're happy for the long run, not just for the short run, right? Like they know they can come back to you because you're training people in the certifications they need, you're making sure they can read and write appropriately, you're doing all of these things with them. So I think employers need to be more engaged, and I've made a lot of employers upset over the years, but I think they need to put more skin in the game because they're the beneficiaries of this work, right? Anything that you do is great for the student, but you've got dual customers to serve, right? You want to serve your students and you want to serve the employer community, right? And that's a tough balance to do both of those, but that's the way the workforce system is. So I believe just getting more and more, be relentless in industry sector work, bringing the employers together, making sure the providers, such as the college and others, have the programs and the training that these employers are very specifically asking for. So your team has to ask a lot of questions, has to really drill down to what employers need, and then employers need to come to the table to be prepared, to at least interview the candidates you have. Don't tell me all this great work and then don't even that you want to do, and then don't interview. At least interview them. And I would never work with an employer and say, look, you got to guarantee to hire anybody I get trained. No, just interview the people and take someone. There's going to be some good people there. You don't have to take everybody, just interview them. So, more employers, and you can't do that too much. I think we need to do that more around the country, and the local areas that have really focused on industry partnerships have done well.
Well, thank you again. I'm going to ask one more question. I don't want to monopolize all of your time. One more question. We're going to turn it over to the audience. It's clear to me, our conversation is really just putting a fine point on it, that we have an opportunity to re-engineer paradigms that are really holding us back. We need to learn fast and learn continuously, and quite frankly unlearn, right? So that more families can succeed and fill workforce gaps. When we talk about equity and inclusion, we talk about actual social transformation and individual economic and social mobility that leads to intergenerational mobility. I'd like to, for this last question before we open it up to the audience, a few opportunities for change, and I'm sure you're familiar. I mean, skills-based hiring and skill through alternative routes. I know the state of Maryland, along with several companies right here in Montgomery County, are some of the entities that have taken the ideas of skills-based hiring to heart. Montgomery College has partnered with Atlantic Online and Silver Spring when they paused and asked, what skills or credentials does an entry-level employee at our company really need to succeed? And we were able to redefine our curricula based off of that, which really created access to education, but access to creating that workforce. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether it's skilled-based hiring or skill through alternative routes, but how these opportunities and more really speak to the equitable approach that we need.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it certainly isn't a linear world anymore where you went to high school, got your 4-year degree, and then moved on, right? It hasn't been like that for the last 15 years, as far as I know, with the folks that I've served over the years. So it really is not a direct route, and it doesn't need to be, right? There's more than one pathway to the middle class in this country. And whether it's high school to community college to a 4-year, which is great, we would love to see more of that, but not everybody can do that. And these alternative routes are not less than, they're just different than, right? And so a lot of people would say, oh, well, you did high school, then you did an apprenticeship, and then you took, a year of courses at Montgomery College. Well, I've seen some of those people make more money than people with 4-year degrees, right? They're alternative routes, not negative routes. And so, you want to lift up all boats doing this. And the equity piece of this is what's not a challenge. Yes, of course it's a challenge, but skills-based hiring, I think, gives employers what they want. Apprenticeships, registered, high quality, well-organized apprenticeships, and then you can modify them in certain ways, allows employers to work with these students for a year, 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is, in a highly regimented, on-the-job training with related technical instruction that then give these students good wages and good jobs, right? And the average wage of apprentices around the country is about $74,000 a year. The average age of apprentices in this country is 29 years old, 28, 29, which is probably reflects some of your enrollment numbers, because you probably have an older group of students these days, particularly during the pandemic. But I do believe that, there's something to all this skills-based hiring. And again, you can call them alternative routes if you want. I know Byron does that in his program. But there are more than one way there's more than one way to the middle class, and it doesn't have to be just stay in the classroom for 16 years, right? And so the more we integrate employers, the more we integrate work-based learning, and the more MCPS sort of integrates that into their students, it's going to be more helpful to you. And the students come to the college and say, oh, you guys do this work-based learning too, or yeah, I want to go do an internship or a work experience somewhere. So I do think the skills-based stuff speaks to employers. I think apprenticeships can speak to employers as well. And again, it's skills-based, but like I said, when we first started out, we got to create the really robust education and training pathways. We need to articulate them. We need to make sure students understand them, employers understand them, and then focus on that. That'll get people skills and good jobs.
Well, thank you. And I think that really segues nicely into our first question from the audience. You were saying we need to get students to understand them, obviously educational institutions to understand them, and employers to understand them. And maybe a little bit more about that, because our first question from the audience is, how can we help more employers think about skills-based hiring rather than hiring solely based on degrees, right? How can we tear that paper ceiling, as my friends call it?
Yeah. Well, as much as my mother would kill me for saying this, it's not really about education and degrees anymore. It's about skills, right? And so I think there's a whole mindset. So we get it in the workforce and the education and training business. We get what's important. We know. So how we communicate that to employers becomes very important. They don't know what skills-based hiring is, right? To the question here. They don't know what apprenticeships are. I would talk to employers, major corporations. I talk to their attorneys, I talk to their VPs of HR, trying to explain them what we're trying to do. But some companies are really great at this, by the way, but some companies don't really know and they want to learn. So, the question is really, from the person who asked it, how can we communicate more effectively with the employers about what skill-based hiring is? So it's our job to say, look, if we can get this person skilled up in X, Y, and Z, get this certification or credential, X, Y, and Z, they're coming to you with skills. They're coming to you with something more than just a diploma, because they have a certification in HVAC, they have a credential in Excel, they know X, Y, and Z. So, it's for the counselors, the program directors, the staff that do this, we need to learn to communicate better with employers. I learned a valuable lesson by a guy who works for you in continuing ed and works for Force Development. His name is Steve Greenfield. And about 20 years ago, Steve and I were working on a project, and we weren't going to go sell workforce services. We were going to go speak to employers and listen. And too many of us in the workforce business don't listen to employers. And, I think educators are sometimes the biggest offender of that, no offense, present company excluded. But, we wanted to ask questions and find out what is your pain point with employment and getting workers, and how can we craft a solution for that? So we really need to ask employers questions and listen very carefully.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have time for one last question from the audience. I want to be mindful of our engagement. And so here it is, the apprenticeship model. You've talked a decent amount about this, or mentioned it several times, not necessarily a decent amount, but it's being recognized by industries beyond the traditional trades apprenticeships, right? You're fully aware of this. So apprenticeships benefit students and employers. You've mentioned that. You've clearly identified that with the salary and the actual low age. I guess I would call it, maybe I'm old, 20, 28, 29 is young age. So how can we engage and incentivize employers to participate in apprenticeships across various industries, specifically, what people would say either are non-traditional or what they wouldn't really recognize as apprenticeships. And you know where I'm going with this, right?
Wow.
IT, biotech, health sciences, for example. Montgomery College, we just created a situation where we're now registered apprenticeship for biotech. We're pursuing that so that we can deepen these relationships. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, you hit it, man. If you're doing that, you're ahead of the curve in a lot of places. But look, this started during the Obama administration, and it has continued. And certainly the previous labor secretary and the current labor secretary really drove this. And that is changing the paradigm and the understanding of apprenticeships. That, to the questioner's question, it's not about trades anymore. Yeah, we built these programs on our brothers and sisters in labor. Right? They really figured it out back in 1910, 1937, when the Apprenticeship Act was passed. So, we learn a lot from the labor movement for the trades and the crafts. So why couldn't we just apply that to biotech, to crypto, to cybersecurity, to IT? And we have, and there's programs all over the country that have really focused on that. There's more apprentices now than there's ever been. There's more money in apprenticeships through the federal government and state governments that there's ever been. There's historic amounts of money going into apprenticeship. So the challenge there is bringing it to new industries and new occupations where the employers aren't familiar with it. So we've worked with, or throughout my career, I've worked with IT, manufacturing, healthcare. There's now teacher apprenticeships due to the teacher shortage. So there's about a dozen states who are doing registered apprenticeship for K through 12 teachers. And DOL has put out some money to drive that. So, it's not the occupation or the industry that matters. It's the model that matters, right? Go to school, go to work, go to school at the same time, or take breaks. There's a number of ways to structure it, but you're getting the on-the-job learning experience, you're getting the related technical instruction, you're getting the theory and the work, and that can apply to any industry. And so around this country, and I got lots of stories to tell you, but I won't due to time, but there have been, city colleges of Chicago. Well, Aon Corporation, a major global insurance company, worked with city colleges of Chicago to create an insurance apprenticeship in their commercial apprenticeship. They've also done HR. Society for Human Resource Management has created a registered apprenticeship for HR executives, HR generalists, I should say. So there's lots, it can apply to any industry. You can take this model and lay it onto any industry. And, people get all hung up by the name of it, but man, it is not rocket science to do. It gives people a pathway, gives them education training, gives them on-the-job experience. And again, average wages of $75,000 a year, roughly, and a pathway to the middle class.
Thank you, Mr. Seleznow. And to hear you share that, the fact that Montgomery College is, pursuing being a registered apprenticeship sponsor for biotech as our first kind of entree, and then moving on to others, is obviously affirming that we are, moving in a really positive direction. And I do want to just provide one last opportunity before I thank the people who are here with us today and those who will watch later. Please, I'd love for you to share any any final thoughts that you have for us?
So I think Montgomery College in Maryland is in a really good place. I think, you've got a new governor. Let me just talk about the state. You got a new governor. You've got a very dear friend of mine who's the Secretary of Labor. You've got, 12 other community colleges going on who do good work. So I think you guys are at a great point. And with new leadership coming through you, I think you are at a transformation point. To bring these realistic approach. Sometimes it's not all this big transformation. It's blocking and tackling, right? The day-to-day work of working with your clients, working with employers, and making those matches, right? And that is, basic workforce work. So, I think Montgomery College is in a great position. I think you've got some great divisions and departments there in which you do that. You've got some great partners. You've got a right-thinking administration in county government. I'm pretty sure you do. I don't live in the county anymore. And you've got great resources with University of Maryland programs and then MCPS. So, gosh, you're right in the middle of that system. So, I think Montgomery College is positioned great. We know you provide super education and training, both in continuing ed and workforce and in your 2-year courses. So I just think you ought to go for it in terms of innovation. I think you ought to keep practicing. I think, you're building trades. I think it might be doing some apprenticeship or apprenticeship-like work as well. So, I just think that work-based learning, more and more of it's a good thing. But, you're in a great community to do it, but a community that has lots of challenges with different populations and different issues in the county.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Seleznow. We are so proud to be here at Montgomery College. So thankful for your time, your wisdom, you sharing with us all of these components that we can take and share with our colleagues, right? Yeah. This is because this is bigger and deeper than Montgomery College, as you've mentioned several times before, and you talked about national models and what we need to do as a nation, right, in order to meet the needs. So I'm looking forward to sharing this good word with so many folks. And again, deeply appreciative of you taking time to be here to talk about such important issues. At this point in time, I just want to say officially, thank you to you. Thank you to our audience for participating today. And please join us again in November for another Next Gen Talent episode when we discuss other critical issues facing our local workforce. So thank you, Mr. Seleznow. Thank you, everybody, and take care.